This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. With your host, Tyson Gifford and William Rower. Episode 143. Recorded February 1st, 2018. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host, Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at TVE, William Rower.
Hello.
So, today, as usual, we are going to be talking about Peaky Blinders, The Magicians, and Black Mirror. We're going to be talking about episode 4 of each of those shows for their respective seasons. So, Peaky Blinders Season 4, Episode 4, The Magicians Season 3, Episode 4, and Black Mirror Season 4, Episode 4, Hang the DJ. So we're going to start things off with Peaky Blinders. Season 4, Episode 4, Dangerous. So this episode kind of, I think it's blocked off by two key things that happen in this episode. The other thing that you could bring up is kind of more like what's coming into next episode. It's more like the setup for next episode. But the two big key things I think this episode is that we have the Italians making a kind of a showy move where they attack Michael's location and kind of just show up at the hospital, blow the brains out of his guard, and kind of like scare the shit out of him.
It's interesting because it's like it's a setup, right? So
yeah.
So this woman who Arthur killed her son. So she has something, she has something against Arthur and the rest of the Peaky Blinders. She comes to Tommy out of the blue and says, oh, she's all about forgiveness, and she's throwing, she's having like a picnic or whatever, and she wants Arthur to come, right? Very obvious. And, Tommy immediately knows that this is a setup, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you realize during the scenes happening, you're thinking, that's pretty obvious, but it seems like way too obvious, right?
Yeah.
I'm the only one who's picking up that this is like way too obvious of a setup. But Tommy, he brings the group in there, and he knows, and Tommy's plan is he's going to ambush the mafia when they come for Arthur.
So he's got like Finn with a rifle and like other people like set up around corners waiting.
Yeah. And what Tommy doesn't realize or fail to realize until the last minute is that was a whole misdirection set up for the mafia actually attacking the hospital, going after Michael.
Which in itself was kind of a misdirect. Because that was basically just a showy move and a moment for Sincredi to say, hey, your mom's deal, she's on.
Right. Your mom's deal is on, you better let her know. And
scares the shit out of Michael first.
It's also a way for Sincredi to send a message to her as well that she could get to him. That he can get to Michael, and that if she doesn't honor the deal, then Michael is as good as dead whenever Sincredi feels like it. Yeah. What are they going to do about it? You know?
The idea being basically that he already killed him because he put the gun, aimed it at his head, and pulled the trigger. There just weren't any bullets in the gun.
Right.
So it's just like that idea of like, I already did every step I needed to kill you.
Right.
And that means that your life is now mine. Like, you're dead, and as long as, it's only for as long as I say that you're alive,
Right.
That's all like a setup, like to get to the hospital. So that's kind of like the first big kind of aspect of this episode, the big kind of moment thing. The second one was kind of a surprise for me. I didn't see it coming as much, but I really liked, because I love comeuppance, and I love that moment when somebody realizes that feels like they're super confident, realizes that there's something horribly wrong. And that happens as the mafia is going away after their move. maneuver, and they reach a bridge and it's blocked off by a carriage, and they're like, oh, what the hell's taking so long? And they're waiting for it, and then they get out and they're like, we'll just move this ourselves. Who leaves this carriage here anyways? And the guy's, the patrolman's like, oh, gypsies.
Yeah.
And you get that instant moment in which, like, Sincredi realizes what I think, like, everybody in the modern world, that follows, like, just the fictional portrayals of them knows, is that gypsies are scary.
Yeah, gypsies are scary, yeah. Especially when one of them's Littlefinger. But yeah, gypsies are scary, right? So like, yeah, it's a gypsy setup, and Littlefinger and his men open fire on Sincredi.
They basically kill, like, everybody but Sincredi himself, right?
Right, almost, yeah. There might have been, like, one other person that escaped was Sincredi, but the important thing is Sincredi gets away, right?
Yeah, Sincredi gets away, but he also gets, like, you can see on his face he got a bit of a scare.
Yeah, you see he got a bit of a scare, yeah.
So that's kind of like, those are kind of, I think, the two big, like, flagpole moments of the episode. The third moment, though, that kind of ties in as well, is more of a setup for next week, which is that Tommy visits Michael, checks in with him, is like, is everything okay? Does all that stuff. Michael does not reveal to Tommy that the deception, but his reaction is enough that you can tell that Tommy's a little bit unnerved. Like, Tommy can tell something's up.
Right.
He doesn't quite know what, but you can kind of see it on Tommy's face that, like, maybe there's a little bit of a, like, communication without words there going on. But Tommy takes off there realizing, something's a little up, and he takes off, and we notice that Sincredi's men are now following Tommy's car.
Yes.
So the implication is, okay, so that the mafia is going to get an ambush on him, and the Peaky Blinders are all dead, and the show's over, right?
No. I do not think that's the way it's going to go down.
No,
especially
I don't think
we
so.
still have, like, another episode after next week, so.
I gotta tell you, I was really tempted to watch the next episode, but I was able to stick through and not do it.
Yeah, I was too. Thankfully, I'm too busy to watch, like, too much. So.
Yeah.
That helps. But yeah, I really want to see how that goes down, so I'll be watching that pretty soon after the podcast.
I'm curious as to how much Tommy knows what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Is he driving away knowing that he's probably being followed and using that as a means to set his own trap? Or is he, like, literally just gonna have to try to survive on the spur of the moment,
Right, exactly. We're gonna see how that goes down next week for sure.
Yep, next week for the penultimate episode of that season, so it'll probably be fairly big. Usually with Peaky Blinders, like, everything that's kind of really worth noting seems to happen in the penultimate episode, and then the next episode is almost like set up for the next season. For the next season, right, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like, next episode should be kind of like the highlight of the season. If it follows the same trend it's been following, unless it's like Game of Thrones where they realized everybody was focusing too much on episode 9 of each season. So they kind of shook it up a little bit. Unless they actually consciously did that, the Peaky Blinders formula seems to be that the penultimate of each season is the big episode. But yeah, so we'll be talking about that more next week. There's a few other things that kind of happened in the episode, but nothing really super notable, Right. Yeah, Tommy had a conversation with an old flame. Yeah. Tommy had a conversation with an old flame. He had a conversation, or Tommy's sister had a conversation with the communist union leader woman. Basically like setting her up with her brother. Yeah, basically. That's not what they're saying, but I mean, that's the subtext we get from it. That's the subtext we get from it, yep. What else happened in the episode? Oh, we got the return of a very good character. Oh yes, that's right. We got to see Alfie Solomon. Yeah, that's it. Yes, our favorite Jewish gangster played by Tom Hardy. Yes. And he was good in this. he's just so obnoxious. Like, like where the fuck is everybody? And then just holding on the horn. And even as Tommy's walking up exasperated, he's still holding it down.
He's still holding it down. Yeah, exactly.
Like Tommy finishes walking up to him. It's just standing in front of him, looking at him like, okay. And he's still holding it down for another second. There's just something in that interaction. I really like the chemistry between Cillian Murphy and Tom Hardy.
Yes, yeah, they have.
I think they have a great kind of chemistry together. Which is, I'm trying to think, like, have we ever seen them anything together before? I mean, Cillian Murphy was in Dark Knight Rises, but they didn't really interact.
They didn't have a scene together.
Like, they had a scene where they were in the same shot, but they didn't actually like interact with each other.
No, because
Cillian Murphy was like running the court or whatever.
Yeah, he was running the court. Yeah, that was like literally the only scene he was in.
Yeah, so that it's fun to see those two work together, and I'm wondering if Cillian Murphy will make an appearance in Taboo at some point, because it's the same showrunner as Peaky Blinders.
It's possible.
Yeah. So I think that would be really cool. I like those two together. And Tom Hardy needs a character to bounce off of in Taboo after getting rid of Jonathan Pryce's character.
Right.
So Cillian Murphy would be an interesting one there. But yeah, so that's Peaky Blinders. Let's move on. Let's talk about The Magicians. I'm going to say right up front, out of the 3 episodes we're talking about this week, this was my favorite. By like a pretty significant margin.
Same. This was awesome.
I love the conceit that this was like Penny's side of like the story, even though it's present, like it's not going back to previous events and showing his side. It's not doing anything like that.
No, it's not doing that.
But it's interesting. But it's his perspective because it's how much he doesn't know or didn't know about what else was happening.
Yeah, he didn't know. Yeah, it's how much he didn't know about. So it's showing us the events that are happening, but through Penny's perspective. So that's the really cool thing about this episode is they basically were able to use Penny's current predicament to make him an observer who could warp around the storyline at will and observe any part of it at any time.
And he hasn't been following all the other shit that's going on. He doesn't know about the quest with the keys. He doesn't know about, what's been going on with Alice and everything else. Like all of that stuff he doesn't know, which makes it kind of like almost as if we're seeing Penny's side of the story so far, except that it's all current. It's not like we're seeing past moments,
Yeah, it's all current. And it's freaking hit like just like Penny's reactions to like stuff like
Quentin laughing when he found out he died.
Yeah, he's just like, what the fuck?
Which is just funny because I could totally see Quentin being the kind of person that would have that reaction where like they laugh at inappropriate times.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see that.
And then feels mortified, but it's still enough that like Kenny is like deeply offended, and Kenny just upset that like nobody's crying or anything because people barely knew him, and they made a good point about that.
Yeah, they made a good point that
Penny didn't really let people in that much, so they're kind of like, oh well, Penny was
Penny. Yeah,
Penny could be the Penny.
Yeah, he could be the Penny. So basically the gist of the episode is Penny is trying to figure out what to do, how to get out of his current situation or
just even how to interact with people.
Nobody could see him, nobody could hear him, he can't interact with anything, and he doesn't have his body, and his body is going to be either burned or eaten by something called a corpse eater.
Greatest job ever.
Yeah, but
a lot of talk about humans eating humans in this.
Because a representative for the library comes and says, our deal with Penny was that he would be our servant, alive or dead, for 1 billion years or something. And he's like, and he hasn't reported to the underworld, where we're expecting him. So where is he? And so he comes up with the theory that, Penny's gonna turn into a vengeful spirit if we don't pull his soul back. And to do that, we gotta get rid of his body. And so we're gonna have something called a corpse eater come up and eat his body. And this spurs Penny on that he's got 7 days now to get things straight, or else he's gonna
that's the ticking clock.
That's the ticking clock. Penny runs into somebody else who's in the same predicament he
a Peeper, which is great.
Yeah, Peeper. And this guy is great because like he's like, oh my god, he's like the audience, but he's like, this guy is like a trip because he's like, first of all, he's enamored with Quentin. Like he basically says he doesn't give a shit about anybody else but Quentin.
I love how he explained that too, like where he's like something about a white male.
He says,
like,
yeah,
really
he says
I relate to.
Yeah, he says as a man from the 1920s, there's something about a white heterosexual male protagonist that I can relate to.
And Penny's just like, what the fuck?
Penny,
this episode was hilarious. Let's just say straight out, like constantly funny throughout this episode.
Constantly. Like there are moments like where like Alice was talking about her dad, right? And Penny initially thinks she's grieving over him, even though that doesn't make.
He's like, I can't believe he's gone. I miss him so much, and he's like,
even though that doesn't make much sense because Alice didn't really know Penny.
Yeah,
probably the least out of him.
He used to put me on his shoulders, and Penny's like, what?
He's like, what? And then she mentions her dad, and Penny's just like, oh, of course. Should have figured.
The kind of where the title of the episode comes from is that Penny is trying to find a way to communicate. He can't move things like a ghost, so he can't find a way to interact in the way a ghost can with the living, because he's on the astral plane. He's not, so he can't do that. The one person that's there with him tells him that the only way he can do it is not to try to move things with his mind or something like a ghost would, but to become them. And so he finds like a table with some change on it, and he's like, there, be the Penny.
basically he's talking about possession.
Yes.
Right. So Penny does figure out, through the other guy he's talking to, that he can possess things.
Which also leads to the funniest scene in the whole episode, I think, by far.
Oh my god, it sure does.
Laughter, which is that they brought back a beloved old character we haven't seen in a while, the Margolem.
Yeah, the Margolem, because he's trying to possess things, right? And basically, he's told that it's a lot harder to possess something with a brain. So like possessing another person is out of the question. So he can't do that. So at first he tries to possess a rabbit. He can't even do that. So he thinks to possess the Margolem because the Margolem doesn't have a brain and also has the ability to communicate.
Yeah, it can move around. It can talk. It's closer to Penny's actual form, which would allow him to better control it because he knows how to do it more. They make a big point of that, is that like you have to kind of, the more you understand the thing you're possessing, the more control you have over it. And with a coin, what can he do? He can maybe cause it to flip, move a little bit. But with a golem, it's like a human. It can talk, it can walk, it can move. So he can kind of control that. He can't control it like super accurately, which is what makes the next scene so funny. Yeah.
so it comes out. So he comes out as Margolem, and everybody freaks out. Quentin just beats the shit out of him to the point where he has to give up on that idea. So
he destroys the golems.
He destroys the golem.
And then it just cuts to Penny just looking like annoyed. And it's just so funny because that like Quentin is always like the bane of Penny's existence. And even in this moment of him just always trying to do is communicate, it's like Quentin comes in and destroys the Margolem that he's using.
So at this point in the story, Quentin is looking for a key that is actually not in Fillory, but is in Breakbills.
We get to see the Chatwin family again.
We get to see the Chatwin family again. And Penny realizes that this key, whoever holds the key, should be able to see him because it reveals a truth. It reveals hidden truths, something of that nature. And Penny kind of figures that if somebody was holding that key in his presence, they'd be able to see him. So Penny becomes super invested in making sure Quentin finds that key.
You get one little ominous scene where when Julia gets the key, we actually see the fairies, watching.
see the fairies behind her. But it turns out the key is actually located in an abandoned and buried south wing of Breakbills that's been buried for a long time because of a malevolent spirit.
At least that's what they think at first.
Penny realizes that the spirit is able to see him, and so all Penny has to do in Penny's mind is convince the spirit to tell everybody that he's there.
But before he can even do that, the spirit's visited by another spirit, because the first spirit is perfectly fine.
Yeah,
he seems like he's friendly and will get along cordially with everybody. And it turns out he's actually the spirit of this man that one of the Chatwins brought this key to. The Chatwin that had gone to war. I don't remember which Chatwin that is. It's not Martin. Martin was the Beast. It was a different one.
It was a different Chatwin, yeah.
But so he brings this key to this guy, and you find out that they were gay, that they were lovers, and then that kind of quickly goes into like, oh, okay, well now you're seeing this other moment from his life in which you're seeing that his father, was like this horrible, oppressive man, obviously very homophobic, and is kind of sickened by him. And they kind of like, they border the line between, is it his father's ghost there as well? Or is it the other guy's ghost enacting, like visualizing his father and playing his father as a role as well, subconsciously even, but being able to use like magic as a ghost.
Right.
And so this is where we had heard that the ghost was dangerous, and this is the dangerous side of that ghostly presence. Isn't the main character, it's his father, or the subconscious father figure of that character's mind, whatever it is. So Penny quickly realizes that not only can he talk to these things, but he can interact with them. So he just starts beating the shit out of the father.
Yeah, he just starts beating the shit out of the father.
And he's like, and then you see the father side of the conversation where he's all, tell him my name. And then you see the guy's side and he's like, what's your name? And Quentin and Julia are like, what the fuck's going on? And then you just see the father say, that's not a name. Which is funny.
Oh my god.
And then around then, Quentin and Julia are just like, oh, let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
He's like, god damn it. So he's spoiled again. But
Elliot, his wife, and his daughter are chased by cannibals.
Yeah. Elliot becomes a cannibal. Presumably his family too, but we don't see that. So that's what's happening to Elliot. Margot comes up with a plan to defeat the Fairy Queen. It's really awesome seeing, because Margot is just like, you're going to go to the hall where the fairies, the anti-fairy hallway. You're going to take a brick out of it. You're going to grind it to dust. I'm going to pour it in the Fairy Queen's bath and then rip her heart out in front of all her fairy minions. And like Penny's like witnessing like the speech Margot's giving, and he's just like, damn girl, you get shit done. Well, it's funny too, because like before that even happens, you have like Quentin sends the message about Penny being dead, trying to send it to Elliot, but it goes to Margot because Elliot's not there, obviously. The bunny shows up. Of course, I love the bunny. Every time the bunny does the communication, it's like the real frank short messages. Penny dead. Sorry. And we get another reaction to Penny's death, which is Margot going like, damn, I thought we were going to hook up.
Yeah. And Penny's like,
me too, girl.
Me too, girl. Oh man.
And then the other guy is like, he was my best friend. And then he's like, what?
Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah, he was my best friend. It's like, okay. Well, at least somebody's grieving, right?
But yeah, so that was like funny. But yeah, so
Penny's girlfriend attempts to kill herself via an overdose.
Julia stops it because she gets like a warning from somebody. That's not really been explained, has it? Or did I miss something?
Unless I missed it too, there was no explanation for that or why that.
But another
why
guy in
that
their dorm
happened.
just kind of popped down to Julia with like white eyes, like possessed, and said, "You have to stop her.
You have to save her."
Yeah.
It's like, what? And then there was no explanation for that, so I don't know. Maybe we'll get an explanation later.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird. But yeah, that happens. And then the ending's real good because Elliot and family make their way to break bills after escaping the cannibals, right? And Elliot relates the story about his key that he has, which basically he saw a vision of his dad who was berating him, and then that's when Elliot realizes that the key that he has generates an illusion of your worst fear.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the opposite of the other key, if you think about it. Like,
yeah,
one
because
generates the illusion and the other shows the truth.
Yeah, one shows illusion, the other shows the truth. It is kind of the opposite. It's interesting. But they give Elliot the key of truth, so he has two keys now. And as soon as Elliot holds the key, he looks over and he says, "Oh, hi, Penny."
Well, even before that, he's like, "I don't see anything different," And then he's like, "Oh, hey, Penny," and then it just ends.
And Penny's just like, "What?" oh, I should mention that this was right after the scene where they had Penny's body and they were debating whether to burn it or have the corpse eater come and eat it, and Penny kind of just makes the decision for them, and he burns his own body.
He becomes the flame.
And so right after that scene is the scene where like Elliot notices him, and I think Penny's is like, shit. Because now he's realized what he's done.
Yeah. I think they'll have like a solution around it. They could make another golem or something for him. They'll find some other way to kind of bring him back, but they'll bring him back in another golem, and Quentin will destroy it in fear.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the episode. I absolutely adored this episode. It was everything I love about the Magicians.
This was much better than last week's lackluster episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was hugely entertaining. I think Penny is one of the most entertaining characters on the show.
Yeah.
So to get an entire episode through his perspective, it was just good. Yeah, I enjoyed this episode a lot.
Yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. But we got to move on. We're going to be talking now about Black Mirror Season 4, Episode 4, titled Hang the DJ. So This episode, we talked about last week that I suspect that we'll have different views on this episode. Not too far off.
I suspect too, maybe.
Because basically what we've been talking about, like on every episode of this podcast where we've been talking about the season of Black Mirror, we've been talking about the divide between us on Black Mirror, which is that there's kind of like the more recent Black Mirror episodes like San Junipero that have kind of like a more like friendly or lighthearted tone to them in essence, a happy ending, that kind of thing. And how, even though I do like those episodes, and I want to make that very clear again, that I do like those episodes, to me, there's like a part of me that I say there's a part of me that hates them, but I hate them as Black Mirror episodes. It's like, if it was just released as a Netflix original short film, San Junipero, that I'd love it, But because it's Black Mirror, it feels like almost wrong to me. Like it feels like there isn't that gut punch, there isn't that, like those things that I need in Black Mirror aren't there because it's kind of taking on a different tone. Now, that's, like I said, that's not to say it's bad by any means. It's just to me, it's not Black Mirror. To you, it is though, because you really like San Junipero is like your favorite episode of Black Mirror.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. So
you're able to really get into that without having like that conflict that I have when I think about it. You don't suffer that, that conflict in it. We say all of that without getting into a discussion of San Junipero, just because Hang the DJ is very much in the vein of San Junipero. It's a romance. Yeah, it's a romance. It has basically a happy ending. It's much lighter hearted. There is a little bit of there's like a semi gut punch, like, throughout the episode. You see multiple times with the way that let's just basically cover the conceit of the episode, which is that these people, they're on like this dating app thing. They're in this like resort like location, and you have to live out the path that the resort demands of you exactly as it demands it of you for like a period of time. And that includes who your partner is during that time. But it's not even just that. It's like what you're eating when you go out for food, like where you live. All of those things are basically handled by this like dating app. And these characters have this thing that looks kind of like, it looks like one of those things you get at a restaurant that tells you like when your table's free that doubles as a coaster, you know?
Sure.
Basically
Right.
looks like that, but it has a screen on it and it tells you like when you meet up with somebody, you find out how long you're going to be with that person. You could be with them for 2 hours or you could be with them for a year, you know, or like anything in between.
Sure.
And so I can see this episode starts off as like the very first date for these two people is with each other, and they're both kind of awkward, especially the guy, but they get on like famously. Like they just have a great time. They don't end up hooking up or doing anything like that, you know, which I think they kind of regret later on, but it's kind of like they have a great time. Everything seems to be really nice for them, but their time together is so limited. It's just like, you know, 16 hours. I can't remember what it was, but it's basically like overnight and then that's it, you know, they
Sure.
part in the morning. And then immediately afterwards, each of them gets like a much longer term stay with somebody that they're not too terribly into. So the guy gets like a stay with this woman that just from the very beginning is just animosity between him and her. They just hate each other. And it's like immediately and they're like together for like a year. So it's like, oh God, it's like from the very moment they meet, they're just not, you know, compatible at all. And then the female character, she gets matched up with this guy who she's actually kind of into, like, cause he's like hot, you know, for her perspective. And so she's into it and she's into the sex and stuff, but she slowly starts getting really sick of him.
Right. Sure.
And it kind of just goes back and forth, and it's showing them as they're kind of re-encountering each other throughout the thing, but they can't really spend time with each other because they're not matched. And they have to wait for the next matching to happen. And so this is kind of like happening, and they have multiple times, and eventually they get paired up again. But it's for like a very short period of time.
Sure.
And they're kind of like, oh, this is unfair, you know, like we've both been thinking of each other, and now we got to get together in this very short period of time. Well, all of this kind of stuff is happening. We also see like, you know, a wedding for a couple that had gotten matched that's saying, you just stick with the system. It's great. You know, everything works. In the end, you'll be happy. And, you know, even if you're miserable and with who you're with during this period, it all goes towards accumulating the data to finding your perfect match, your perfect soulmate.
Right.
And, you know, they get paired up for a third time, but they decide together not to look at how long they have together. And this is kind of like, this is somewhat the gut punch, and it's a little bit almost like 15 Million Merits-esque. And the way this is done is that they're like this and they're enjoying their time so much together. But at one moment, the male character is like, God, he just wants to know how long he has with her. He doesn't want to deal with like not spending time with her. So he just wants to figure it out. And he finally finds out that he can get that information on his own without pairing with her to find out that information. But in doing so, when he checks the information, it like kind of goes haywire, and it starts like the amount of time at first is like several months or something. It's like 9 months, and they'd already spent some time together before this. But then it's like, it just starts shortening and shortening and shortening. And he's freaking out, and he finally ends up confessing to her that he had done this and that their time keeps shortening and they don't have much time together. She's really angry at him about it. They have like kind of like a harsh kind of breakup moment in a sense, where like they go their separate ways because they have to, but also they're just kind of angry at each other in relation to this situation. And then they get paired up with some more people, more like meaningless sex and stuff that they're just not really into. And then they get matched up for their final time. It says, tomorrow you're going to meet your soulmate. Like, it's done. This is it. But before that, you can meet up with one last person who you spent time with already. You can pick somebody you spent time with to meet up with for a short period of time before you go off with your soulmate. And so they each pick each other, like right off the bat, like right away. And immediately the female character is like, let's get out of here. Let's get out. Let's run away. We want to be together. And you go into this conceit of like, is that the point? Is them running away together? Is that what decides that they are the soulmates and stuff, that they're willing to like risk everything? And they get through, and then you start to realize like, oh wait, something's off. Like the people that try to stop them, like they get kind of like frozen in place, and then like parts of the world start like disappearing around them. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is like clearly they're in like some kind of a computer simulation. And everything's kind of disappearing around them. And it ends with, you see like all of these versions of the two of them together meeting up, and like basically in a visual bit of symbolism, like their orbs of energy merge together and they head off. And that leads to the kind of reveal of the whole thing, which is all of this is like a simulation, the entire thing. Not just that they're in a simulation, but they themselves are part of the simulation.
Right.
And you see these two people meeting up for the first time, having never met each other, looking a little bit different than we'd seen them before. Like she looks a little bit more punkish and stuff, you know. And they're meeting up at a restaurant, and they both have this app on their phone, and they're meeting up, and it says 99.8% match or something. And they kind of smile at each other, and that's like the end of the episode.
Sure, right.
So the only bit of a gut punch in there is kind of just the stress of like the times where they have to like not be together, and the times where like, you know, somebody else is with them for like a year, or like the moment in which their time is quickly evaporating after he looks at how much time they have together. So that's kind of like the most Black Mirror-ish parts of the episode, in my opinion. And so I do like all of that. But this is like San Junipero in that it's a happy ending, and it's a romance, and it ends with this happy ending of the two of them meeting up. So what do you think?
So
what's your read on this?
What's your read? Because I want to hear your opinion.
I like it, and like I said, there is that part of it that's very like Black Mirror, like that I mentioned. But again, like San Junipero, and it fits in the same mold for me. I just, when I watch Black Mirror, I want to be punished at the end.
Okay.
Maybe I'm masochistic, but it's just for Black Mirror. It's like, I want my Black Mirror episodes to end with me feeling that gut punch. And this isn't the case here. I mean, I guess in the same way with San Junipero, you could read into it and find like a gut punch if you really want to. But it's not really there. Like, that's not really what they're intending. That's not what the tone is suggesting, you know? So that's kind of where I feel. It's like the same as San Junipero to me. Probably not as good as San Junipero, like overall and just in terms of quality. But like, it's the same kind of things that I don't like about it as a Black Mirror episode that I don't like about San Junipero as a Black Mirror episode.
Okay. So I thought this episode was totally boring.
Okay. See, I was not expecting that. I thought you'd totally dig this.
Nope. No, there's not really much to dig here. The leads are likable, I guess. But there's no conflict. Nothing happens. Like, the conflict is, oh, this app is telling us we can't date each other. And so you just see them date other people, and who cares? They end up together in the end anyway. Oh, and then it's a totalitarian society, but psych, it's actually inside of a cell phone. And I thought the double twist at the end was like really stupid. I thought that was like desperately trying to like looking for a twist. And it's like, okay, well, you know, the double twist was stupid. And I just thought it just lacked it was just flat. It was flat.
So it was just boring to you.
It was just boring to me, yeah. So
see, I'm kind of surprised by that, because like outside of it just not feeling like Black Mirror to me, like I actually liked it. I didn't like it. I said it's in the same vein as San Junipero. It's not as good as San Junipero, obviously.
Well, like the leads are likable.
Yeah.
But it just, there's not any real conflict.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
well, the conflict is when you don't know what's going on. it's the idea of like them being forced into these situations. Like imagine living with somebody for a year that you just hate.
Right, but you don't.
Yeah.
You don't see that, so you get like a sense of that. Like
they cut through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, you get like 5 minutes of that. He's with this person. It's like he's with this person he hates, but it's like the thing saying, well, he's going to be rid of that person anyway. So that just undercuts the drama of that. Because, the dating app says, oh, it's only for a year. So you're like, okay, well, you only have to survive a year with this person.
So were you expecting like a darker twist that never came?
I was. I really was. I was expecting the gut punch because I thought it was a bit too.
You were expecting like a murder or something to happen.
I don't know
because of this, because of the dissatisfaction of two people being forced together for a period of time or something like that.
Right. Like I was expecting the gut punch because it did seem like too much of like a happy episode, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like even San Junipero, I mean, the base idea is death.
Yeah, the base idea was, death, like they were dying, there was sort of a gut punch. But San Junipero, the reason that worked was because there was conflict. There was like deep characters. It was layers, or like so many layers to peel back that weren't based on stupid twists.
Primarily that these two had very different views.
Yeah, primarily that these two had very different views. The twist in San Junipero was very clever, I thought. It was just a much better, and this is just kind of like, it's kind of like they had an idea of something and just kind of like, just didn't have like the other half of the idea, right?
It felt to me kind of like
so it's like
a romantic comedy with like a genre twist,
right? That's what they were trying to go for. I like to say like this episode to me felt like it was like they said, "What if Tinder but too much?"
Yeah, so I can get that. I can get like I said, I'm a little surprised that you didn't like it just because like it is kind of in the same vein as San Junipero, but like I said, San Junipero, even as somebody that has that issue with both this and San Junipero for the same reason, San Junipero is clearly better.
Right.
It's a superior thing, So I didn't think you'd like it. I didn't think you'd say, oh, this is my favorite episode ever. Like, San Juno what?
San Juno what?
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to say that or something, but I'm a little surprised that you didn't get much out of it. And that oddly, the thing that you really seem to have wanted from it was that gut punch. Which is what I usually desperately want out of a Black Mirror episode. That being said, like I see the same things. Like it's the lack of the gut punch that I didn't like about this either,
I just thought, weird. When it looked like it was going to turn out to be a totalitarian society, I thought that's when the gut punch was going to happen, but then it turned out to be like nothing, and then they did the weird thing where like this was all data in a smartphone app, which really makes the preceding hour completely inconsequential because you're like, oh, well that wasn't anything real, that was an algorithm.
But now it's time for wild speculation, because there is a way you can read into this that's much darker.
Oh yeah.
And that's like we've talked about before about how they've like reused themes from episodes to kind of imply that all these Black Mirror episodes are happening kind of in the same universe. So if you see one part of a technology in one and you see something similar, there's a chance that they're based on the same tech. That kind of like idea. And one of the techs they introduced with the Christmas special, which you haven't seen, but also again in USS Callister, the first episode of this season, is the idea of like creating a digital clone.
Right.
And that digital clone is sentient. The digital clone is sentient. It's not just like data that you can use to figure something out. And they do a really good job of it in the Christmas special, because it's basically there's a guy whose his entire job is to take this digital clone of somebody and beat it into submission so that it acts as like the person's like Amazon Echo, basically. So the person will have like an Amazon Echo in their house that knows them perfectly because what's inside of it is a digital clone of them. And that's like the conceit of part of the Christmas special. The Christmas special has like 3 different stories that are connected, but that's part of it. And the idea is that like, okay, you're taking this real sentient clone of this person and beating it into submission so that it's no longer like having its own will. Like it's similar to like what you'd imagine like how slavery works, in which you take away the person's sense of agency. Like your only purpose is to help the real you. And you have no life outside of that. And that was like a huge part of that episode. And, you know, as I'm bringing that up and you haven't seen that episode, you can probably, I'm sure, already see the ties to USS Callister.
Yeah.
And what that has.
It's an interesting take, I guess. I don't think for a second that's what that was going for.
But I'm just saying, like, one sense of wild speculation, one way that you can interpret this as very dark is that there's countless, like 1,000 iterations of of these people, thousands of digital clones,
right? Sure.
Being put through like this simulation almost instantly, and that's kind of like, I remember after I watched the episode, I talked to my sister and she said, "Do you think that it's like this dark story, or do you think it's something else?" And I was saying, I don't think it's that dark story, but I could see how you could think that, especially if you've seen the Christmas special and you've seen USS Callister, then you've seen something similar twice, where you're like, oh, okay, I can see that being again, you know? But to me, like tonally, the way they presented it, it felt more like we were seeing kind of like a personification of an algorithm. So it's when you use a dating app and it matches you however many % you have a match, you know, there's an algorithm at play behind the scenes going, okay, this person likes this person likes this, blah, 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 blah. And it's weighing these different things and putting together and saying, this is how much of a % match you are. And to me, it's kind of like, okay, so you take the idea of an algorithm making a match and you take it like way further down the line so that it's much more complicated, so that it's actually running these simulations in like seconds, basically. Like they meet up and they find out that this match like right away. Basically, like everything that occurred in this episode really occurred probably in like the matter of seconds.
Right.
Which in another way can tie into that episode last season, the one with the guy that died while in the virtual reality thing, where it turned out that like he died instantly, like that phone call came through and he just died.
Right.
But like everything that played out, like it was made as if something was going wrong in the simulation, but it all happened in like a couple seconds from the point that the thing was put on his head. Idea of like time difference, you know?
Yeah. Idea of time difference. That was Black Mirror for this week. I don't really have much to say about it except I found it boring.
You can read a dark story into it, but tonally it doesn't seem that that's what they were trying to say.
It doesn't seem like that's what they were going for at all. Like you can read that.
They didn't strike an ominous note in the score. You know, like they didn't do anything to say, "Who you should think about this." Like they kind of like ended it like on like a happy note and without any note that something might be off.
It just seemed like, it just seemed like this was like their attempt to make another San Junipero for the season, and I just think it felt flat.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I don't think you can purposefully, just try to emulate that. I don't think every season needs a San Junipero, so I hope we don't get into like this habit of trying to have this every season.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting having watched Black Mirror from like the first season. It's interesting to see how like it went from like a 3-episode season to like the second season, like had some stinkers that weren't as good as the first season, but then it did that Christmas special. So it's like, oh, there's a bonus episode and that one was really good. And then when they went into the third season, they doubled the length of a season. And it was kind of like, okay, wow, you have so many more episodes. And I look back on that season as like, to me, is like the worst season of Black Mirror. But if you just kind of take out the best 3 episodes, it's might be close to season 2, if you don't count the Christmas special for season 2, which, by the way, the Christmas special for season 2 didn't even air in the same year as season 2 did. There's like a big space between it, but somehow it's grouped as in part of season 2. It's almost like it's its own separate thing, you know, like that's almost what it should be seen as. But if you don't look at that, then it's like, if you just kind of take the best of season 3, it could fit in there with season 2. so far from what we've talked about, we've both seen every episode, but without spoiling anything, I think that this season's better than last season as a whole. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
It doesn't have, like Hang the DJ isn't San Junipero, but also we didn't have Hated in the Nation.
No, God, no. Nothing this season was as bad as that. Crocodile might have pissed me off, but at least
or what was that soldier episode last season?
At least
that was really
wasn't stupid. Like, goddamn.
That soldier episode last season was really bad too.
Yeah, that was really bad too. I agree.
But yeah, so it's just kind of interesting seeing kind of how Black Mirror, as new people are exposed to it in different seasons, what their idea of what Black Mirror is, how Black Mirror has changed as it has more episodes, how it's changed as it's gone from a show entirely filmed and casted with British actors and filmed in the UK to something more international as it is now, where you have episodes that are in the UK and you have episodes that are in America, and with different writers and directors from different areas, involved in it. It's kind of interesting to see how what Black Mirror has changed over the course of time,
Right.
But we'll be talking more about Black Mirror next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about here's my little preview of what next week's episode is for Black Mirror. I think it's probably the most visually interesting episode of the season, but maybe not as interesting. It maybe is not as plotty as I'd really like usually, but visually very arresting,
This next episode, Black Mirror, was, what's the guy's name?
David Slade.
David Slade, who's an excellent director. He's directed some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones as well.
And Hannibal, he directed a lot of Hannibal and American Gods.
And a lot of, so this some good shit.
But that's for next week. And before then, here's what we have coming up in the week ahead. So by the time this podcast is available on Friday, February 2nd, 2018, Strike Back is back on Cinemax with a new cast. The Trade is on Showtime. Two Dope Queens debuts on HBO. It's kind of like a weird stand-up mix thing, but I think it's talking about different aspects of New York City, or it's something weird. I'd be interested if you'd see it as somebody. I've never been to New York City, so it's supposed to have something to do with New York City. So I don't have any point of reference on that. But Absentia shows up on Amazon. The big show for this whole week, I think, is Altered Carbon, which by the time this podcast is out will be available on Netflix. This is a big cyberpunk show. Kind of some mixed reactions coming in, mostly positive it seems, but maybe not it seems to be more not as good as it should have been is kind of the negative reaction that some things have given it. But it's a big cyberpunk story. It looks extremely expensive. If you see the trailers for it, it looks very expensive.
I'll check it out.
But yeah, it's got Joel Kinnaman from The Killing, and he was also in the RoboCop remake. He was the main guy in that, and he was in Suicide Squad.
Oh, nice.
He's in it. He's the main guy in it. It's just kind of super high concept cyberpunk science fiction. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if you're into Deus Ex, the games, this is basically what Altered Carbon is. It's like that as a TV show.
Nice.
Then Wednesday, February 7th, 2018, Channel Zero Butcher's Block airs. So Channel Zero is a seasonal anthology show, like an American Horror Story. It's also a horror series, but the horror series are all kind of based on the creepypasta stuff.
Sure.
And so what's interesting here is that they did the first two seasons each on Halloween. So they did it on the lead up to and through Halloween for the first season, and then the second season, which was last year. And now they're dropping this other season very quickly afterwards, because it's only February and the last season aired last October, but they dropped in this other one now called Butcher's Block. Each season's its own thing. It's very strong horror anthology though. The first one, the first season is the only one I've seen all the way through, so far, but that one, it felt very Stephen King. It felt very much like watching It almost, something along those lines. So if you're into just, a really good, Stephen King-esque horror kind of thing, Channel Zero is a great great option. And a whole new season's dropping on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, February 8th, 2018, In the Cloud debuts on Crackle. It's listed as kind of like a sci-fi show. So Crackle is a free streaming service provided by Sony. They have commercials, but it's free to use, I believe. I think they might have a commercial free option that you pay monthly for, but they've had a few interesting shows on. They had one called Startup that's got like Martin Freeman in it, and they have this one is like supposed to be a sci-fi kind of thing. Friday, February 9th, 2018. That comes to Netflix. This is another anime. And then Grand Prix Driver comes to Netflix. I believe that's a docu-series about car racing. But yeah, that's it. That's what's coming up in the week ahead. So until next week, thank you everybody for listening. You can reach our website, TVEnthusiast.com. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. Check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, all that information you can find on the site, by the way. You can subscribe to this podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And if you're subscribed to this podcast, you'll see you can only really check out like the last 2 or 3 episodes. If you want to watch some of our back episodes, you can go to our YouTube channel, and the entire backlog of our podcast, all 130 or 143 episodes are available on our YouTube channel to check out, as well as other stuff. So check that out. Thank you everybody for listening. This is TV Enthusiast tuning out.
Good night.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of all of your favorite shows.